Being a teenager has always presented its challenges. It's part of growing up. However, consider a thought for teenagers dealing with grief and trauma after having lost a loved one on our roads. Well, Margaret Markovic, a teacher, has a unique understanding of what grieving teenagers face. And with Christmas upon us, the roads can also be treacherous, especially with impatient holiday makers. Now, Margaret is the founder, along with her daughter Lisa, of Road Trauma Families Victoria, which is a not-for-profit charity, and as part of helping teenagers managing their grief, Margaret has established a camp Raw to Raw, and it's backed by the TAC. The camp is designed to help teenagers through the challenges they face with the support of friends, volunteers, police and professional counsellors. And Margaret joins us here today. Good morning, Margaret.
Hello everybody.
Now, what a important and great initiative you've started here with the Raw to Raw. What was the driving factor that realised this needed to happen?
Thank you so much for the acknowledgement. My daughter and I co-founded, as you mentioned, Road Trauma Families Victoria, which was a support advocacy for families who had lost a loved one on the roads. So we were doing things like filling in gaps for people once that knock on the door has happened or the phone call. Everything just becomes huge. And between that, funeral, coroner's office, police investigations, and then the justice court system, it's endless, and it's very difficult to keep your mind in a place that works for you, because everything becomes hazy and it's too much information coming from all directions at once. And we experienced that, so we knew what we could do to help other people in the same situation. The police do a great job, and then they get on with the investigation. First responders, AMBOs, whoever, same deal, do a great job, move on to the next job. But what happens to those families then? There's no information as to what happens, what do we do, who do we contact? There's such a lot of unknown there. We just felt we could fill that gap. So with that said, and helping through some of the court cases, we've made changes, thankfully, to legislation along the way. We were involved in the P-plate driving legislation, the changes that came into play, and quite a few other things. But what happened and stood out very clearly was that there were children at home, parents grieving, trying to work through all of these different systems and unable to cope with that. How do they then support their children, teenagers mostly, and these kids then start to feel guilty. It could have, should have been them. They become angry. Why has this happened? The family often fracture in many different ways. The school system is not always helpful or supportive, which is very disappointing. Not all, but there's been quite a few. And that really resonated with me. So looking at what the needs were of these young people, I've developed a program called Raw to Raw, and it's spelt in a certain way so that the RAW is when they come to us. That's the initial stage perhaps they're in and their family are in. And hopefully by working with us and coming to camp and experiencing the camp, they're ready to move on and ROAR and raw in their life, hopefully with strategies and peer support behind them. So that's pretty much what it's about.
Yeah, I speak from personal experience. I lost a brother to a car accident when I was 17, and I know my parents would have loved something like this because their focus on making sure myself and my sister were dealing okay, as well as trying to deal with their own grief. And
Yeah.
we were a small country town, so it went right through the whole community, my brother's death as well. So, and there was nothing, as you say, the police come around, that horrible job that they have to do to knock on that door, but then they're off onto the next thing. The police are so overworked and under-resourced that they don't have the time for this. How long has Raw to Raw been going, Margaret?
We started in 2016. The idea, of course, was sitting in my head long before that, but the stepping out to get it out there and actually start doing something and involving the young ones who need the program was pretty much 2016. But it's been a battle with funding, like everything that's there. Trying to get some financial support to be able to run the camp. The very first one in 2016, we pretty much self-supported it ourselves. We did the sausages, we did the car wash, we did just general fundraising on Facebook, and coped in that way, which worked, but we can't, that's not sustainable. And we need to know and plan in a longitudinal fashion, knowing what finances we have ahead moving forward. Everything goes up, of course, so whatever could be a set amount from a philanthropic trust or other may not always be the same down the track. So that's a whole other area that I've stepped into. I think it found me more than I found it, and has become quite a curve in relation to supporting and knowing what we want to do is working. It is the right thing. It's proven itself. We need to be able to continue that. So TAC, after nearly 2 years of negotiating, came through for us with a 2-year funding deal, and that finishes next year. So we're sort of in the process now of trying to make inroads again to see where we sit with the TAC. And mentioning that, you would know, many people would know, TAC cover costs of funerals, expenses and counselling for road trauma victims. But that money is for a whole family to use. So with these young people not wanting to be involved in traditional sit down in a room with someone they don't know asking stupid questions, they don't want that. So I sort of thought, well, I wonder where their money's gone. Surely it's still sitting there, and maybe that could be an avenue to follow to fund the camps. Unfortunately, I haven't really got anywhere with that. It just seems to blend into the whole financial beast of the organisation. But that doesn't mean to say it can't be reviewed. So we've got funding from them until next year.
Now, I've had some involvement with TAC in a previous life where I used to work as exercise rehabilitation for people who've been through TAC, and I've always found them an amazing organisation to deal with. And if they're listening, if they're watching, put your hands in your pockets, boys. Girls, this is so important. This is so needed in a country where we get 2 days bereavement leave entitlement, and yet we have 1 day for a horse race and 1 day for a grand final. It's just ridiculous, and the ongoing lifelong impact, especially on our children, of those affected by this, needs to be addressed. What do you got? Where do they find out about you, Margaret?
I'm sorry, when did they find out?
No, where can people find out about Raw to Raw?
Oh, right. We have a web page, which is www.rtfv.org.au. We also have the same address on Facebook. We have a lot more information actually on Facebook. It tends to be used a lot more than the web page, but still, that's okay. You will find my phone number, our email address, and any other information, and the camp outline is there as well.
All right, Margaret Markovic, thanks so much for your time, and please everybody slow down on the roads, be safe this Christmas, and Merry Christmas to you and Lisa. Margaret, thanks for the work you do.
Thank you so much.